to all those seeking vibrant health. It's Dr. Rachel Northern, and today I'm talking about raising healthy families or natural health tips for healthy families. So family health. So we got some tips, and let's go get on the way. So kind of getting the basis, like what's your vision? Like what does a healthy family look like? Have you ever stopped and thought about, like, is your family healthy? Have you evaluated, like, are you guys doing healthy things? Do you even know what's healthy? Unfortunately, this term wellness has been like commercialized, and there's a lot of things that might not actually be wellness minded because it's a marketing ploy now. So really think about what is actually healthy or what makes you well, and see if you're buying into some commercial version of it, which is not true. So what to do, what not to do, what stops us from being healthy. So, in the first place, what examples are you being individually? Like I think about as parents, everybody thinks, you know, what you tell your kids is what they should do, but it's monkey see, monkey do. There's a lot of research showing that it's your actions that what translates to your kids. So if you can say don't vape or don't smoke, but if you're a smoker and a vapor, your kids are going to take those actions on versus just telling them something and thinking that they should obey you. They actually follow your whatever you do. Another example is I work out, and my kids saw me going to the gym. My kids saw me working out. I didn't too much talk to them about working out, but they saw me do those actions. And now as they're being adults, they know the benefits of going to the gym. Now that my son's been out on his own, he's 24 and he's living on his own. He goes to the gym regularly. He has a gym membership. My daughter pays attention to how many steps she's doing a day. So there's a lot of things that they know they're like engaged in, and it wasn't something I pretty much preached to them. It was just our lifestyle and how we lived. So what kind of examples are you being in your life? So also, do you have like a list of like what you value, or are you paying attention to what you value as a family? We're going to go a couple of those kind of lists of possibilities, and also, each family is unique. Some have got blended families, some are regular, like maybe never divorced families, but you got to realize you're all unique and you're all special in your own ways, and get away from like doing the comparison game of keeping up with the Joneses or the neighbors or whatever. If these people do that, it doesn't matter. It matters that you are healthy in your own right. So, it's nice to, if you admire certain families, if there's something that you see in a family that they do. I remember when I had my families, there was another family at church, and they had like once a week they'd read to their kids. They had a story that they all read together, a book they read together. And I thought, oh, that's really cool that they did that. And that was something I wanted to incorporate with my family. Now, I didn't do it every week like they did, but it was something maybe to add in. So I kind of admired that about them. Maybe not, I took a little bit of that, but not to the extent that they did. So reading together, maybe that's something, or going to the library or whatever. But don't compare yourself to them. Like, that's great, that's them, but find out what's good for your family and maybe not good for your family. So here's a couple, values that we could maybe have. What does your family value most? I have, is it truth and integrity, making sure that we're honest and open and be able to talk about anything. Not to say, all these qualities are all good and all values are good, but some families prioritize certain things than others. Quality time is good for some families. We got forgiveness and grace, extending grace, love and respect, community involvement. So I have had families that they're active in like the food pantry, or they're active in cleaning up the roadside community. Like, find out what works for you and your family if that's a big thing for you. Health. That's another thing. Is that a priority for you? Trying to see where that falls into your family dynamics. Fun and creativity. So I have other families that love to go to like these places they can go and do crafts and some like community things. Like, you can go to the park district and do certain things. Some people like to be out in nature and look at the butterflies and look at the go to the zoo and the animals. So what kind of things are fun? Or some people like going to amusement parks. So, what activities does your family really like, and extend that over. Also, like, are you really a sporty family? Do you like sports? But at the same time, do you have balance with these things? Is it all sports and no rest and no other things? Some families are really into academics and going to do like more academic things and theater or activities. So find out what really like is your values. And also you might have some different personalities. Like some people are really more academic and some are artsy. And make sure we're kind of like giving a little bit to each of those family members that value those things too, a little bit of time with those. Where it's not all always going to like maybe a sporting event because most of the family likes sports. Maybe you guys try different things. So kind of think about that. Right now we're in the summertime here, and at the beginning of the summer, I always tried to like write a list of things and include my kids of like, what do you want to do this summer, and contribute to that. And that way it gets trinkle, like kind of plan out the whole summer, like doing like maybe one thing a week versus like the summer goes by so fast, and then it's like a week before school, and I'm like, we didn't do anything, and then we're trying to cram a bunch of stuff in before they go back to school. So I kind of had them give a feedback, kind of plan things out, and then it just was a nice activity filled summer, but not too rushed and more pleasant. So this is Benjamin Franklin once said, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. And so just again, like thinking forward of like, what do you want your family dynamics to look like? Or are you going to get sucked into what our society, fast-paced, unhealthy society is doing? And that's what you're going to default to, because it's so easy to fall into the pattern of the world and the society. Do you plan to keep your family healthy? Like, what are you doing to plan to be healthy? Like, are you planning meals so you can have healthy meals? If you know you're doing a lot of sporting events and know you're going to be on the run, are you planning it where you can grab like pre-packaged like your carrot sticks and your veggies, and you can grab them real quick and have them on the road? Or are you just not planning and ending up going to have to go to fast food? So what are you doing to like be front? Otherwise you're going to swept up into sickness. Right now I'm reading some books that are just talking about how sick our society is, and we're up like 300% on obesity and fatty liver disease and all kinds of things, diabetes, heart disease. It's up exponentially, and it's going to continue to trend this way unless you stop and evaluate and think about how you can change your lifestyle for the better, because our society is going to the unhealthy ways and disease ways really quickly. And unless you personally one-on-one and your family make a choice to not go that way, you're going to go down that path too. So, you got to make plans for quality time, rest, meal times, free times, activity times, trying to make sure you're like on purpose on these things. So first tip we're going to go over is what I think is the most important tip, is keeping your family's nervous system healthy. So we got a little picture of, this is actually the activator instrument I use in my practice, really safe, gentle for the whole family. I see newborns to, I think my oldest patient's in her 90s right now, and everybody in between, pregnant women. And it's great because we're keeping on and making sure there's no interference on the nervous system. Your nervous system's the main responsibility for making sure you're adapting to your external environment and making sure you're digesting and doing all these things all the time. And so what we make sure is trying to make sure you have optimum function of that nervous system. Most people think going to the chiropractor is for neck pain and back pain, and that's not my practice. My practice is actually about keeping everybody healthy and catching things before it's pain, before we have problems with children, before they have chronic ear infections. Don't get me wrong, people come in because they have these symptoms. That's a big motivator, colic for babies, all these things. But if my patients that are wellness minded are coming in periodic to make sure we clear the body and have the body's adapting it properly. So that's what this chiropractic adjustments does, is actually removes the interference that's through the spine, helps that nervous system communicate effectively. So there's that. So choose, good nutrition. That's tip number one. So like I was saying, do those meal planning. Possibly 70-80% of our health-related problems is related to food and what we eat. So whether you're choosing health or disease, depending on what you're eating. What are you doing breakfast? Are you doing a later breakfast? Are you making sure you have protein? Are you making sure you have lots of colors involved? Because those colors are where all our antioxidants and our nutrients that our body needs for proper energy production. So, another study has shown that kids that learn how to actually cook, like start having them in the kitchen, helping them cook, and also having them dish out their portions versus doing that, that helps them learn what real portion sizes can be. That's really important because our society is prone to have double portion sizes, and that's why we have like 30% increase in obesity. So if we learn early on to prep our plates and have a proper portion sizes, that's going to help us in the long run be healthier. And then also them being engaged in their food, when they're engaged in making their food and picking out their food at the grocery store, they're more likely to eat those foods as well. So there's a lot of things with that. Making sure we're sitting down for meals and not eating them on the run, because that helps our parasympathetic nervous side of our nervous system, our rest and digest side, our calming time, to make sure we're calm and ready to receive food. It helps us produce our digestive enzymes. It helps us with the whole digestive process, and it helps to get away from like that irritable bowel and all these other issues that we have chronic in our society. So sitting down and taking a moment and making sure they're ready to receive food. So the hands down most researched beneficial for our body, the typical body of Homo sapiens, is actually the low carb Mediterranean diet. So I was at a party actually a couple of weeks ago, and I brought this up, and he was like anti low carb, and so I didn't realize, like, people think low carb, they're thinking like rice and processed foods or whatever, and they're saying, oh, look, I need some carbs, and I'm like, well, vegetables and fruit are carbs. They're just got fiber associated. They're natural carbs, so there's a lot of phytonutrients in those carbs. So we're talking about not just eliminating like your fruits and vegetables. I'm talking about eating fruits and vegetables. I'm talking about the refined carbs when I say low carb, like your processed, like your chips and your fast food and all the microprocessed things. When I say low carb, I'm saying eat nutrient dense foods. So make sure you got the proteins in there. Fish is really important to help with that your diet. I mean, healthy proteins. So those are good. Making sure you have like those 2 cups of vegetables a day and having the fruit a day, having the nuts and seeds, and again, eating those variety of colors. So those are the main things, and those are the things that feed health. So, and decrease inflammation in the body as well. So some food don't reward with food. I have still patients and people who reward their kids with the candy bar. And unfortunately, my church is still good with this. This is like the old school way of, oh, you got a Bible verse, here's a candy bar, or whatever, little chocolate snack. And I'm like, no, we can give them a sticker. Like at the office here, we have a basket of stickers. The kids love it. It's still a reward. They get the positive reinforcement in the brain. They're all happy. So there's other ways to reward, and you don't use food because that builds up for old habits. As we get older, then we're like, oh, we got a promotion. Let's reward with ice cream or whatever. We want chocolate or whatever we do. So these are bad things. So don't do it for yourself either. Try to find other ways to reward yourself. And because that can drown. Also, don't use food to overcome boredom, anxiety, low mood, because again, that's going to put you down a path that's not healthy. Find other ways to do it. You can Google things, how to reward yourself without food. There's a lot of other ways to do it that still can get that endorphin release in your brain. So also, having kids try new foods. Always try to have an introduction. I did this with my kids, and my kids do eat Brussels sprouts. My kids do eat a lot of things that other kids in their age group didn't eat. And part of it is I put it on their plate. The rule was you had to have at least 1 bite of it to at least try it. And if you didn't want to eat it, that was fine. And a lot of times my daughter's the stubborn one, and she'd be like, oh, no, I don't like it. She had the 1 bite, didn't like it. But the next time I served it, she ate it. So that was just kind of like a little stubbornness. So sometimes they're just kind of want to be their stubbornness. But still, hey, you got to have at least a bite. But at the same time, my mom's generation was forced to say you had to clean your plate because their parents came from the Depression era, and they didn't want to, they were like, don't waste food. So we have these kind of balances of psychological things that we have to work on of, don't have to clean your plate, but, also have them try to make sure they try new things. So there's a little balance in there. Okay. Also trying to, again, reduce the toxin exposure, the refined foods, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, artificial colors, sweeteners, anything like that. Read all your labels. Obviously, we know fast foods are bad. We know trans fats are bad. The GMOs, where we're manipulating plants to do things and that are not from their deviated from their natural state, that they can cause issue on the gut and decrease your good bacteria in your gut and cause leaky gut. So that's something you want to get away from. Nowadays, there's a lot of packaging that'll say non-GMOs. If you want to also look for genetically modified, they'll actually now starting to put that label on there. There's genetically modified foods in the package. So look at things like that if you're buying prepackaged things. Obviously, soft drinks. Trying to go with water, flavoring water naturally with like maybe strawberries or raspberries or blueberries, like putting those in those little crafts now we have to infuse the water if they don't like straight water. And obviously, children should not be drinking caffeine. I'm very cringy. I've had now exposed to multiple families that like 7 to 10-year-olds that were allowed to have coffee, and I was like having a freak out. So I biting my tongue because that is way too young. They should be already producing enough energy. They should not have to have caffeine in their diet. So that's a big no-no. And even with adults, I'm always talking about only maybe 1 cup of coffee in moderation is okay. But after that, you're starting to tax the body after that. So, and again, trying to do maybe organic and make sure you're getting a healthy source of that coffee and not refined. So tip number 2, water. So, your majority of what you drink should be water. And my rule of thumb is trying to drink your water through the day. I always have a glass on my desk. My team's awesome, and making sure I have my little coffee cup filled with water on my desk throughout the day, and I sip it through the day. And then we talk about we do a little pinch of sea salt to get those electrolytes in. I usually do a Celtic sea salt that's renewable, and just making sure I'm getting some of those electrolytes so it kind of pulls that water and stays a little bit longer in my system. So that's kind of a little pinch there. I've been even recommending this, especially during the summertime when we're sweating a lot. Some of maybe those electrolyte drinks. Again, pay attention to the sugar content on some of these electrolyte powders. And there are a lot of natural recipes. You can make your own little electrolyte drinks, and you can look those up as well. So those are some things to consider. And I also talk about drinking through the day, and at meals, don't drink as much liquid volume, because when we're eating, when you drink a lot of water or beverages, that dilutes your digestive enzymes. So you want to have a little bit less drinks during a meal, because that's kind of diluting some of those digestive enzymes, and you want to have those kind of as much as possible to help process your food and break it down. So keep a healthy home. So this is like, obviously eliminate smoke, air pollution. I have air purifiers. Now we have a couple of these plug-in ones in the office as well. We've just had an influx of like mold problems with all kinds of families. I don't know if it's the way they design homes nowadays, because we're so like airtight, especially in the wintertime. So trying to get like these purifiers. I think Green Tech is the company I like that has a pretty good one, and they have actually like an ozonator where you can hit it when you leave the house or leave your basement, and they can kind of ozonate and kind of clear up some of that stuff. So make sure you're avoiding like toxic air fresheners. Some of these companies that make your house smell good, and sprays, they're actually toxic. They're not really good for the lungs. So I tell people try to do more of those essential oils infusion machines, whatever they're called, and like use essential oils is a really good thing. Also plastics in your carpet, breathing, there's outgassing on that. Pay attention what's in your laundry detergents, on your cleaning products. Like kind of just really, there's like books and books on all these things and how they affect us on a cellular level. So also think about what you're using on your skin, because we absorb everything through our skin, toxins. Also, they're starting to put hormones, especially in female products, that might have estrogens in it. So you need to pay attention to that. And you definitely don't want that on kids, because they don't need those hormones into that. So even hair products, and then sunblocks. I like those zinc oxide, titanium oxide sunblocks versus all that other chemicals that they have. And they do have a bunch of products out there now. You can get those more readily So number 4, move. Obviously, we know we need to move our body. That's the best anti-aging, is moving. So, we're talking about avoiding sitting more than an hour at a time. I tell patients that work at a desk, try to set an alarm and get up and stretch and move a little bit. Again, with kids that they're binge watching or they're playing video games for hours on end, we need to make sure that we kind of corral that into bite sizes, or where they need to stop and pause. It says our research states the body needs to move 10 to 15 minutes for every hour that we're awake, and then 30 minutes a day of like actually getting our heart rate up, so consistently. So that's like the benchmark of being healthy right there, and keeping everything moving, and those natural endorphin releases and natural anti-pain hormones that we can release during those things, anti-inflammatory. So activities, setting goals. I have a couple families that set goals for the year of how many minutes a week or a day that they're gonna spend outside, no matter what temperature is. So we get pretty cold. We get hot in the summer and pretty cold in the winter. There is a daycare actually local here that actually, unless it's like sub-zero, they actually bring the babies outside. They have like a time, like I think it's like 30 to 60 minutes a day that they actually bring the kids out. They're like mandatory to be outside. So obviously, weather permitting, but they try to do their best to do that every day, no matter what. So that's pretty awesome. Look ways to be more active, taking the stairs. When I stay at a hotel for a seminar, I take the stairs. I find the stairwell, and I do climb the 3 flights, or usually 6 is a little much, but I try it. But trying to go up and down, and instead of taking the elevator. So, parking at the far end of the parking lot at a grocery store, whatever way we can get as much steps as possible. And then also you can bike, you can swim, what ways you can get our kids active. I remember when my kids were little, during the winter months when we couldn't get them outside, we went to the Y and they did some swimming. We had a summer or winter or two, we did that. So just there's different varieties of things you can try. And then the main thing is these kids in this generation, we're like, I'm the generation still where they had to call us. It's dark out, you come in. They had to call us and wrangle us in. And this generation now is we have to kick them outside. We have to get them away from the TVs and stuff. We're like, no, get outside, play outside. So get them outside, get them playing and being active. There's actually diagnosis of like nature deficit syndrome now for our kids, and that's not good. So remember, growing body, growing mind. Research also links like core work, so maybe having some exercise balls. If they are going to be playing video games, for maybe you let them have an hour or whatever you want to do a day, which we'll talk a little bit about that. Have them sit on an exercise ball. That's actually what I use, exercise ball for my desk chair. Now, I'm pretty active in the office, so I don't get to sit down much, but I sit on an exercise ball, and it's good to activate that core. It's good for the brain and the development. And then also there's links of people who kids are struggling with the academics and the mind. There's and special needs. There's core stability is important for that brain development. And there's also the cross crawl patterning too. There's a lot of different brain exercises you can do. You can look those up too. So make sure those are just super important. So we're talking about balance. There's those hoverboards. There's the yoga balls. There's a lot of things you can do that you can incorporate into your family lifestyle that can make it a little bit easier to get a little bit of activity and stimulation into the body. I talk about doing family bird dogs and family crawling around the living room, and actually doing it as a family, doing family planks. So these are all good for everybody. This one's talking about posture success. We know, unfortunately, our posture for our society is this. We do posture screenings on all new patients that come in, and there's not one patient I've had, I don't even know, maybe one patient in the last 10 years that actually maybe had their ear over your shoulder like you're supposed to. And that's not me included, because I'm looking down at patients all day. We are just stuck, and we call it tech neck now. And that's causing problems in our lower cervical, which is going to lead to generations as we get older, degeneration, I should say, as we get older in generations. And so this is not good. So pay attention to how your kids are sitting. I have a lot of time I'll just a teenager usually, like the mom and dad and everybody's coming in, and I just the teenager, and then they go to their sit down and get their phone, and I literally will take their phone and lift it up so they can have to look straight up at it after. I'm like, I just adjusted you. Let's get like if you're gonna look at your phone, at least get it high up. So they're not doing this all day, and then they're doing all this now because at school, because now instead of looking at a board, they got them looking at these tablets and these little computers. So it's not even like they're looking up in school anymore either. So we have to figure out ways of incorporating and getting this posture. Pay attention to the postures. Tip number 5, natural park prescription. There's actually been some campaigns if you go, nature prescription or outside prescription for kids, and you'll come up with a bunch of websites for research saying how good it is to get outside. Most of your parks and rec in the area, we get a magazine here in the office like quarterly, and they have all the activities, and they'll have like a butterfly hunt, or they'll have all these different activities trying to get them engaged, and rely on these. Some of these are free resources you can do and take your kids to, or maybe there'll be a minimal fee of like $5. But there's free resources. The library has a ton of resources as well, getting them out doing things. There's just Google those things, your local resources. I'm sure you've got a lot in the area. Tip number 6, try new things. Like I was talking about, maybe do some new crafts, order some crafts to do. Maybe there's a crafts that you can make like by collecting certain seeds and nuts and leaves in the yard and making it after that. Get engaged. You can also try the local community college. They might have a painting thing going on. Or again, your community centers might have some activities that you can sign up for. Just engaging that brain in different ways is really important to keep it healthy. You can, number 7 is, still engaging the senses. So have a sensory workshop, like maybe have the kids blindfold and you guys pull out different things and smell different things and think about what they smell and what that reminds them of. That's another part of the brain to engage with. I already talked about in the kitchen about helping them cook and maybe tasting different things. Closing those eyes to see the heighten those senses and just engaging the whole brain. All ways we can keep healthy, because we have an influx of dementia, and they've known now research-wise, the dementia doesn't start right when the symptoms start. The dementia started decades before. So we need to start engaging our brains and feeding our brains like the omega-3s and the healthy fats and all these things now early, and continue to feed it so that we can push that dementia out, or maybe either delay it or maybe not have it occur at all if you take care of yourself like you should, and these trends in your family, because those are a lot of genetic markers on those. So if you know you have some of that in your family, you should start early and start healthy habits now. So number 8, tech fasting. So technology fasting. So eliminating, having no screen days, no screen times. I definitely say sitting at no tablets, phones, sitting at your meals. I'm really sad when I go out to a restaurant and see either a family or even the grandma's in their phone and they're not talking, or a group of teenagers that are sitting and not talking. They're out together, but they're not really even engaging together. So I heard a story of a seminar I went to, and the doctor said they went out to eat and they saw a group of teenagers and they put their phones down in the middle of the table, and they were really excited because they were actually talking to each other, and they're like, they walked over like, hey, what's going on here? And they're like, oh, the first person who grabs their phone has to pay for the bill. Like, oh, that's a good way to get them not to, because they even knew they wanted to engage with each other, and they even knew, even as teenagers, that it's probably not healthy. We're going out together. We should probably interact with each other face to face. So I was like, that's a good way to do it. Like, oh, first one touches their phone, pays the bill. I'm like, I like that. So, but set aside those times of like saying no-go zones, and definitely the dinner table should be one of them, in my opinion, or if you're at any quality time event with your family. So tip number 9, prioritize sleep. So we know that the circadian rhythm is also important for brain health, back to dementia, all these other things. So trying to go to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time is really important. Unfortunately, with this technology, it is keeping especially the teenagers up late, and they still need a lots of sleep in the teenage growing growth spurt years. And so this is really affecting their health. We, the last research I heard that we are 20% deficient on how much sleep we're getting as Americans. So probably more than that in some of my opinions. So we should be getting more sleep than we do on average. So making sure that we prioritize that sleep time, that is really important. Either have them shut things down, also maybe start an hour before bed, no screens, no phones. We should have, children's 9 to 12 hours is actually what they're saying they should need, and adults need 7 to 9. And I can tell you, because I do ask this question in my history, majority of adults are like 6, maybe 7 hours. So some 5. I don't know how they survive on that. I could not, but we are definitely deficient on that. And so that's one thing you need to do. Those rhythms are really important. There's a ton of research saying it affects every part of our health. So number 10, maintain healthy support. So having good support systems, family, friends, church family, faith friends. They say the family that prays together stays together. But when something happens, it's good, either a death in the family happens, or if some injury happens, or you never know what's going on in other people's lives, you need that support system to help back you up, to not be alone. And those people who share life together have great experiences. And that's back to, like I mentioned earlier, like blue zones. He did the research about the communities that live the longest, traditionally into the 100 plus. They have a great community support where they're there for each other. And that's also the patients I see in here that they're doing great in their 80s. Like they're still active, they're still doing water aerobics, they're still doing all these activities, they're social. Like they know if something happened to them, those other people in their little community would step up and bring them dinner or whatever they needed, check in on them, talk to them, take them to the doctor sometimes. So these are things that are really important. So think about what communities do you have really good friends or family that you'd count on if things went sideways in your life. So that's really important for health. Okay, so here's a healthy family example here. They're obviously getting adjusted, coming in at least once a month, every 3 weeks as a family, getting adjusted. They're continue on being curious and learning new things and active, eating, make sure you're prepping and eating healthy snacks and doing a variety of different activities. They have all these natural cleaning products. By the way, anytime I go to like an Airbnb and I see like they have like Miss Myers or something healthy, like cleaning products, I get excited. So I'm like, oh, these people know that's good. I already said getting adjusted regularly, being active in their communities. And if you want more information, I have tons of videos online of like health prevention and feeling better. Thank you.